That being said, oh God, I forgot about you, David. I would have forgot about you.
People have been trying to forget about me for a
Jesus,
long time.
since I met you.
Yeah. My name's David Ezrati, and I've been on the ballot many, many times. I've tried to get on the ballot many, many times, and people generally love me or hate me. They don't really have an in-between, and I'm okay with that. Because a lot of the people that hate me, I'm not real lovey-dovey with them either. I bought my house in 1986 for $14,000, $14,500 in South Park, and people thought I was crazy. And the city took me to court, and I went down to city because I put brand new garage doors up, and I didn't know it was a historic district. They took me to court. They made me change the doors. They made me shovel poop at the Humane Society for 30 hours. And to this day, there's still no signs really that say this is a historic district. And there's no restrictive covenants in the deeds. And we don't have a really collaborative effort of the city, an inspector, to work with the people who buy property in our neighborhood to make sure they understand that. And that's how things like Blind Bob end up with a problem with his door. My major learning out of this was if you went down to the city commission, you went and asked them for help, they'd sit there and they'd hear you and they wouldn't respond. And I don't believe that's the way our government should work. I believe if you take your time to go down to City Hall and you've got an issue, you should get a response. That is why when we elect somebody, we give them our power to run our city, and when we want to talk to them about it, they should talk back to us. And I want to change those things. I want to change a lot of things, actually, because frankly, I don't think our city's as functional as it could be. There are lots of things like the land bank and a lot of nonprofit, quasi-governmental organizations that seem to have lots of money and get to give it to their friends and family. And we just saw the DOJ and the FBI indicted some people, and my question was, what took you so long? One, and two, I find it odd that they only indicted black men. We got a real problem. I don't think the poorest people in this city should be subsidizing buying buildings for $250,000 and then giving it to a bar that's in direct competition with somebody who had paid real money for their place and had to invest in. I'm talking about Blind Bob's, Lily's, Roost, Corner Kitchen. They all had to pay for their property. And we bought Patrol Pub and gave it away and threw in Garden Station for free. Now, all the times I've tried to run, I've never been allowed on the ballot on these two seats that don't. I've only been allowed on the years when the mayor is running. And that's usually a bigger race. And there's more money and more interest. And the way they knocked me off the ballot, I used to just figure there was nothing I could do about it until I actually learned there was, and this time they tried to do the same thing, and I went back and fought them. And the whole process is rigged from top to bottom in this city. And you can believe it or not, but I think this is the first opportunity you've had to really make a difference. Because right now, there are 4 people on that commission that are part of what I call the monarchy of Montgomery County. 2 of them are up for re-election, and you got this guy who snuck in that special election, which we didn't know why it happened before, but we now know. Joey Williams was told, sorry buddy, we caught you and you can't be an elected official, but you can still wear a wire. So Darryl Fairchild beat the party's pick, which was Darryl Ward, and so if Shanice Turner-Sloss and I both got elected, there would be 3 votes, and that's what I've always been told. You got to be able to count to 3. And this is what Gary Leitzel ran into the whole time he was mayor, was he didn't have the 3 votes to make anything happen. But we'd have 3 votes, and maybe we could start having some real accountability in City Hall. Because I don't think it's fair that General Electric doesn't pay property taxes, but the school board's going to come back to you and ask you to pay more because they're spending money like it's going out of style right now. And I don't think it's fair that you can't get police response, but Premier, UD, Sinclair, metro parks, Kettering Hospital, all have private police forces with full police power that don't report to anybody other than themselves. That's not the way it's supposed to be in this country. You're not supposed to have a private army to protect your stuff. And most importantly, and I know none of you are going to have to worry about this, but I think our jail has to be safe. And it's embarrassing that a candidate comes to you and says, look, we can't send our citizens to the Montgomery County Jail because even if you're in there for a minor misdemeanor, you're risking death. And that's happened. And when I exposed the fact that somebody was pepper sprayed in restraints after the sheriff said, oh, that doesn't happen, and there was no outrage, there was no, our city officials didn't say we have a problem here. They just said, oh, it's only jail, we got to send our people there. And no, you don't. Believe it or not, elected officials can change things if they want to. They could change the petition process so people could actually get on the ballot without having to go to fight for it. They could change a lot of things. And there are a lot of things that need changing. Especially the way we do economic development, because I'm sick of rich developers getting subsidized by poor people, while poor people can't get the house next door to them to meet what I call a minimum exterior standard. Now, my neighborhood, South Park, has come a long way in the 33 years plus I've been there. I've rehabbed 5 properties, I still own 4 of them. I've been a neighborhood president, I've done all these things. I've been there, and I was part of what I think was the turning point in our neighborhood when we stopped talking about selling Victorian homes and we started talking about selling a community, a neighborhood. Because it's the organizations like this and the people that set the tone for the neighborhood, this is what makes the difference. And I don't think the city has ever really supported that. I think the priority boards were just an extra step. And it caused a lot of problems for our neighborhood and other neighborhoods because they couldn't, it's not hard enough to do Mike's job, but then they have to go to the priority board meetings as well. And the fact is, they didn't have direct contact with the city manager either. And now we have these quarterly meetings, but they're still kind of odd, and I still don't see open, honest government, which is something I've been fighting for a long time. This charter says you have 1 meeting a week to meet and discuss public business, yet they always have 2. They have a work session, which isn't broadcast or watched. This has to stop. So this November, whether you like me or you don't like me, this is your opportunity to put somebody that will speak up for you, speak up for people who go to jail, who are just waiting for a court hearing and risking death. Because our commission has said nothing about this. About private police forces showing up in SWAT gear with assault rifles down at UD. That worries me. Well, we don't have enough police on the streets to do things and we have to do red light cameras instead. I have published a blog for since 2005. There's over 2,900 posts. If you go look at Azrai.com, you will find information about almost anything that's happened in the city. I'm well informed. I know how this stuff works, and I know how we can change it. And I'm asking you to take the time to read this is my 2012 literature. And this is all I've got so far for this year, plus some stickers. But take some time to read and go to the site and research, and then tell your friends. And say, it's really important that we get out this November, because in this off-year election, usually the turnout is horrible. Get out and send a message that you just can't get put in place by the party. Be a yes man and keep your job over and over and over for 4 terms, going on 5, and never say anything and never contribute anything in that commission meeting. That you ignore citizens. If you've been watching this Allwood Prairie thing, you had 50 people come up and they don't say anything back. The deal was done in a back room without consulting the community. It's insane. This has happened over and over and over. Look at Garden Station today and look at what it looked like before they handed it away 3 years ago to the developer. It looked a lot better when the citizens were taking care of it. It's up to you to spread the word. I can't do this all by myself. The amount of money Nan Whaley has in her campaign fund can silence anything I try to do. She's literally got $200,000 sitting there, and she will spend every last bit of it to keep Matt Joseph and Chris Shaw in office. Shanice Turner-Sloss, David Ezrati, this November, we'd really appreciate your help. I don't have any of Shanice's literature, though I should, because I print it. And she released a video today that I highly recommend you go take a look at. I've got a bunch of videos, a bunch of things out there. The most interesting and bizarre thing ever, if you haven't had a chance to see it, was the school board president who ran for office unopposed, handed out literature with pictures of himself with Joe Biden and pictures of himself with the Pope. Turns out, before he was made school board president, he didn't even live in the district. He bought a house in Vandalia for $500,000. He was doing land deals with CareSource while he has a home health firm that gets money from CareSource. He was buying school buses while he runs a trucking company. I exposed all of this. Really amazing video. The international man of mystery, Adil Bagirov. I said, here's the records. He committed voter fraud. He said he lived in this house on Maryland Avenue with his business partner. He didn't. Secretary of State, the AG, the Ohio Ethics Commission, Ohio Elections Commission, the prosecutor, the city prosecutor, nobody would do anything. I found out later that he got $250,000 given to him right after he got elected by the Azerbaijani laundromat. Nobody cared. Finally, on election day in 2017, he changed his voter records because he wanted to run for Mike Henney's seat to the new address. I said, okay, here it is. He doesn't live in the city. He has to resign from the school board, and he wouldn't. I threatened to file a lawsuit. I said, at noon tomorrow, if you haven't abdicated your seat, I'll file this lawsuit. And he abdicated. And then he ran for, was it county recorder? Adil Bagirov. It was insane. The FBI and the DOJ said we have a culture of corruption in Dayton. They haven't even scratched the surface. And if you want to fix it, please, please read this stuff, talk to people, and I really appreciate the time, and I know I went really long, but thank you.
That's all right. While you're here, though, David, does anyone have any questions on anything that he just mentioned? If you want to see, hold on to your literature till after. I mean, you got to pass it out outside.
All right.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
if you want to get his literature, you can meet him right outside that door, right there in the hallway. Because during our meetings, you can't pass out.
Any questions?
The literature. We're 501c3. We don't want to lose our nonprofit status. We cannot endorse politicians. And this is a first-class politician. You just heard him right.
I am the worst politician ever if you look at my track record.
Sure, he can't get elected.
Can't get elected.
But he's still a politician. Now, David has done a lot for the community, and thank you, David, for the time that you put in as a volunteer and a neighbor. Thank you.
And
for that.
I run the website for South Park, and let me tell you, it's a thankless job, and it takes a lot of work and time, and it's not easy. So I do also do other stuff in the neighborhood.
And for all the people who don't like Dave, I'm actually in the middle. So if you want to see him, talk to him out there in the hall.
Thank you very much. No questions? No questions? Thank you.
You're welcome. Hey, thanks for
Appreciate it.
it.
And thank you all for coming, because like I said, this is how things happen in our neighborhood, and they're the way things are happening in this neighborhood.
And he did touch on some things. The truth is that neighborhoods really do get it done. Organization and that's why Walnut Hills is doing very well right now. We're all sitting here. This is a very good turnout. Most neighborhoods don't get these kind of numbers, and we constantly get new faces, which is nice. So, but once again, thanks for coming, David.
Thank you.
Meeting is adjourned. Sorry for keeping you guys so long.